Kim.
Hey Colby, how are you?
Oh, I'm not too shabby.
This
Not
is
too
good.
shabby.
It's good. We're in
This is good.
February.
We are in February. It's a month of love.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not too.
Now we're not that okay. Anyway, this is for
Month of
husbands
love.
and men.
I
Right?
honestly, me to be honest with you, I don't like Valentine's Day. I'll tell you why. Because being married to me is like Valentine's Day every day.
Amanda told you that.
No, no, that's a total lie.
But you're trying to tell her
I'm trying to tell her.
that.
No, not
You
even
know,
close. But I do think it's overrated.
yeah, we don't go out on Valentine's Day. We usually go out the week before, week after, just because we don't want to hassle with all the people at the
Yeah.
restaurant. Plus, a lot of them have like fixed menus, and the favorite thing I have there, they might even have on the menu that night. And so
Oh yeah.
we don't do that, but I always get her cards. I kind of have this deal where I get her a lot of cards and give them to her throughout the day.
Oh.
I've done that for quite a few years. She has stacks of cards. She won't throw them away. So, in a way, she's a card hoarder. She is.
So is this like y'all have just celebrated not too long ago 50 years of marriage?
Yeah, she got
which is
10 that day, one for every 5 years.
Okay, I was wondering how y'all did that. So every 5 years you give her a card. Is that how that works? For like every 5 years.
No, I just thought of that this year. that was new. But
That's cool.
the thing
I
is,
like
that's
that
hard
idea.
to remember to give 10 cards.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
like in the evening, she got 3 pretty quick in a row because I was a little slow in getting them all done. Hey, we're at a great place today.
We are Eote Coffee.
Yes.
Some friends of ours, Todd, Vincent,
Vincent, great guy.
incredible guy. Coffee is incredible. It stands for Ends of the Earth Coffee.
Probably the best coffee and coffee shop in the world.
We may be a little biased, but I would totally agree with
it's
you on
pretty
that.
close. It is a great place. If you're ever in Oklahoma City, downtown, Eote Coffee, it is a great place to hang out, great place to get coffee. We just love it. Yeah, it's a good place.
It's kind of like a speakeasy feel down there off of 6th Street. And if you are not in the Oklahoma City area, you can find their coffee on Amazon.
Yep.
EOTE Coffee.
It
Definitely check it out.
Be worth investing in a little bit of it. You'll love it. It's great.
Absolutely incredible. So today on Be a Better Man podcast, we want to talk about forgiveness.
Right.
And something that, in my opinion, you agree that is something that men definitely, we're always working. I think people in general are always working through, but forgiveness being such a major part of who we are and working past that is so important. And just wanting to jump right into what we're talking about with forgiveness is, the question is, how do we go about forgiving others, and why is that so important?
Well,
for
first,
us?
and I think it's something that God tells us to do, for one thing. I mean, he talks about that. That's a scripture that sometimes you just think, oh my gosh, what is that in there? I don't want to forgive that person. That person's doesn't deserve forgiveness, all that kind of stuff. But I think what happens, what I see, and for counseling people over the years, if you hold on for unforgiveness, you're probably hanging on to some bitterness. You're probably hanging on to some anger and some other things that over time just kind of continue to eat away at a person. And I've seen people that really become not very good people to be around because of that anger all the time. And a lot of times we found it comes from something that's happened in the past that they've just held on to. That person didn't need to be forgiven, and so they don't forgive.
That's so good. And you hit it right on the head when it said that you don't want to be around them. I can think of people that I know have not been able to forgive someone, and I'm maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes by the time because I'm so worn out talking to them because of the bitterness and the anger and the hatefulness that's spewing from their life. It just drains you. Where it just smooth out. I can't imagine living with that all of my life, every single day.
No. One of the things I say usually when I do premarital counseling, if you're in a relationship ever with somebody that can't forgive, run. I mean, you cannot live your life with someone who can't forgive you, because you're going to screw up. As perfect as you are, and as Amanda says you are, no, you're going to screw up. I may screw up every day. If Nancy couldn't forgive me, we wouldn't have made it 50 years. We wouldn't have made it probably a year, because I give her great opportunities to grow spiritually every single day by forgiving me.
That's a great point. I know in my own life that I don't like confrontation. Mm-hmm. So there's a big piece of me that kind of wants to steer clear of it. I want people to like me. I'm a natural people-pleasing, being around people. That's something that I like to do. I don't like it when there's tension and awkwardness.
Yeah.
And what I'll do, though, when somebody has offended me, as opposed to coming to them, and I've had to really work on this, as opposed to coming to them and talking through what bothers me about them or what they did that really hurt my feelings, I will repress this.
Yeah.
And then what comes out I don't know. I remember even in high school, it would come out years down the road. All of a sudden, there would be this moment where I would just let everything out, and I would direct my anger and my frustrations towards somebody that wasn't
That
deserving
wasn't
of
the
it
person. Yeah.
because I had not learned to forgive. I've had to really work on accepting and forgiving and having those conversations. Do you feel like a lot of men that you're talking to on a regular basis have a hard time releasing or talking about that forgiveness with somebody when they've been hurt?
Oh yeah, I think it's hard for us, whether it's our pride or just being a guy or thinking that
Yeah.
person doesn't deserve it or what they did was so bad. Whatever the reason, I think guys do that a lot, and so we just kind of hold it in, and so then what we call displaced anger is what you're talking about. So sometime later, somebody else and they trigger you in some way, but they're not the person that hurt you back here. And all of a sudden, you're just jumping all over them, and then afterwards, you're thinking, "What in the world was that all about?" I was a little upset at what he did, but I wasn't that upset.
Yeah.
You know,
And it was more directed to, it's because I wasn't, or that person wasn't able to overcome their feelings and talk about them legitimately. They harbored them inside of it. I know for me, having to talk about that with other people and getting the opportunity to confront, even though inside it drives, like it just tears me up inside it, just how it makes me feel in it. But it's been so releasing and so freeing to be able to have those conversations, direct them, and knowing that person's not more like I'm not hurting their feelings. They're just like, I had no idea
yeah.
that you're hurting. I practice it with Amanda. I help. Hey, this bothers me. So, do you give them? What are some good steps that men could take that if they're dealing with something like that, from like I deal with, that you can give them and say, hey, here's some good steps.
Yeah, I think for a guy, first, it's just admitting that there's an issue there.
Mm.
Because a lot of times, did that bother you?
Oh,
No,
that's
that didn't
good.
bother me. That's not going to bother me. So I think the first thing you've got to do is admit that there really is an issue.
That's
There's a
good.
problem with what happened in the situation. And then I think the other thing, I think when you talked about not wanting to confront, I think we associate confrontation with conflict a
Yeah.
lot, and it doesn't have to be conflict. It's kind of like, say, if I was upset at you about something, and I came and I said, hey, Colby, we've been friends for a long time. There's something that's kind of bugging me that happened, and I don't want it to hurt our friendship,
Yeah.
and I'm afraid I'm going there within myself, and I want to talk about it. Can we talk about it?
Yeah.
And most likely you're going to say, yeah. I mean, you're not going to know what I'm saying or anything, but I think when you approach it that way and say, hey, this relationship is so valuable to me, I'm willing to do this because I don't like where I'm going with this. And it may be, sometimes we get mad about something, and when we talk to someone, we realize your intent wasn't to hurt me.
Right.
Your intent was, you were not even thinking along that line, and I just happened to interpret or take it that way.
Yeah, that's so true. I remember, and I've done that with my friends, and having to learn to communicate what you just said in a very positive way. But it's practice. Like I wasn't always the best at saying, "Hey, this really bothered me." When you sometimes it would just come out and say, "You're an idiot. What is?" And because I didn't know how necessarily to control my emotions. I did that with a good buddy of mine named Brett. Had hurt his feelings because I confronted about some things, but I did it in such a terribly poor way, and he wasn't even doing anything that was that drastic. I just was like, and some of it was even directed outside of that. It wasn't anything that he had done necessarily 100%. Some of it was other things that all just jumped on him, and we had to work through that. He forgave me, but you're absolutely right. It is that, but it does take practice to work through to talk about that, right?
I think it is, and I think it's and you mentioned with you and Amanda working. I mean, the guys that are married listen to this. A great place to start is with your spouse.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, because that's where we want a good relationship, and we want forgiveness to be a part of that. Or in a relationship, guys that aren't married, in that to practice that. It is just something about coming to another guy and saying, "Hey, you hurt my feelings," or something you did hurt me. I don't know. It makes us feel like I might as well hand you my man card when I say that, because I just put myself on a
But
different
it's
level.
true. It's true.
And so we don't want to go there. But I think in really healthy male relationships with two guys that are friends and want that friendship and value, know how important it is to have guys in their lives for accountability and to share life with and stuff like that. It's worth doing that.
It's important. Like if you can't have a healthy relationship with another man specifically, anyone in general, if you're not willing to have those, and how much do you think that comes from just trust? Do you feel like there's a lack of trust with men and other men? And is that ego? Is it pride? What is it that's culminating all of those things?
Yeah, I think we have to work at it. I think guys, we can talk about so many things that are fun to talk about. I mean, sports and things like that, or stuff like that.
Shallow.
But we keep it that way, and so we don't. You see women get together. When if you go to a party and there's been the couples, and at some point the women are all talking, the guys are talking. If you go in the middle there, they're probably talking about something fairly significant.
Yeah.
At least it's relationship or kids or something like that. And we're talking about, why did he punt and not runs on fourth down, or, that's the stupidest play I've ever seen them make in the world. We're talking about these things. And so, one thing that is really interesting, and I've told this before, and I read this a long time ago, that when they first started having bars, that they made the bar where it's long so men could stand shoulder to shoulder, because they didn't want a bunch of tables. Men weren't going to sit around a bunch of tables unless they were playing cards or something.
Huh.
They're more comfortable being like that. I don't know if that's true or not, but it kind of makes sense. It
Makes
is.
sense.
We can, you can sit,
Focus on the drink in front of you.
the front can drink, or the big screen behind
Yeah.
it, or something like that, and so you don't really have to engage in anything that's
I've never heard that
any
before. Makes
consequence.
sense.
I know, it really did. It made sense to me a lot, because guys, we're just, and so I think as guys, you're not going to listen to this and go out and pick 20 guys and you're going to bare your soul to them. I think just like that, if you have one or two people, maybe 3 or 4 in your life that you're doing life with, that you're being accountable with, you're walking with, those are the guys you want to keep those relationships healthy.
Yeah.
And I think, there's different levels of relationship, and you and I have a close relationship, and I would do anything to keep that relationship going and to be healthy. There's somebody else that I might see every so often, or when we do, we just talk about football and stuff. I mean, I want that to be a relationship, but they're not going to be able to hurt me because I'm not that close to them.
There's not an intimacy there.
Right.
I've got a group of friends that we've been doing stuff together for 17 years since college, and we've had some really difficult, and trying conversations, really good times, shared memories. But I can't think of doing things any life without them. Does that make sense? But it has taken time. And I think so many people think, well, we're going to jump in this relationship. We're going to start hanging out. We're going to do these man things together. It's going to be like, oh, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 weeks, and we'll be these tight buds. It has literally taken my friends and I years and years and years to work through things, develop things, and speak into my life. It hurts a little bit, then back, and so it does take time too. And just to make sure that's clear, like this isn't relationships like that take, especially with men, because we are so guarded at times.
Yeah.
It takes time.
So maybe you think of, if guys are watching, just think of one guy that maybe you think there's a potential of that kind of relationship, and pursue it. But I was just thinking as we were talking, men have always had trouble with this. I mean, you go all the way back in the Bible to Cain and Abel, and which one killed who? Cain killed Abel. Cain killed Abel, and so they didn't have a good relationship, and so they didn't know how to develop and probably work things through. So, you're my brother, I don't like what you did, so I'm gonna kill you. Move on, And so that's not the way to do it. That is not healthy.
That causes a whole lot of other problems.
Yeah. Especially in today's world.
You'll be hanging out with a whole new
group
of guys.
You won't be moved to a different country like they moved, like Cain got to move. You'll be moved to the jail.
Yeah, and that's a whole different set of relationship problems that you have to go through while you're in there.
I've never been there. You want to talk about that?
No, I mean, it was a long time ago. We don't want to bring it up.
Yeah.
I'll say this. Talk about forgiveness, though, legs I got to work through. All kidding aside, I've never been in jail. Let's just make sure that's clear. And although there's probably times that I could have stupid decisions I made.
Yeah.
Do you think it's truly possible to forgive and forget?
That's such a tough question. And let me answer it this way. Definitely you can forgive. I mean, I think that's essential. That's important. It's something that we have to do. I look at it this way. When I've got a problem with someone, and it's really a big deal to me, it's kind of like an open wound.
Yeah.
And until there's forgiveness and some healing taking place, that relationship is strained. That scar is always going to be there, but it's a healed scar. And so I think, and what I would see something as that scar would remind me of the process I went through with that friend, that the relationship is healed now. I think it's hard for us to forget. We're just not wired. God can forget, but we can't forget.
And I totally agree. It is sometimes for certain. I think certain things are easier to forgive than others, obviously. So there's levels of forgiveness. If someone's been molested when they were little, that's a lot. That's a big level of forgiveness.
Absolutely.
Someone that just like got cheated on by their ex-girlfriend. Okay, the forgiveness thing a little bit different in those aspects of things, but it is for a lot of people, and it's okay. Forgiveness can be an everyday choice of
Absolutely.
Like, hey, today. It's hard, but I'm going to choose to forgive today. I'm going to choose to walk in forgiveness, even if I don't feel it all the time.
And
right?
I think that's a really good point, because a lot of times, depending what it is, it's a process.
Yep.
And I think just making that statement, okay, God, I'm going to need a lot of help with this to forgive this person, but I'm willing to start that process. I'm willing to forgive and let you work me through that till it really becomes a reality in this relationship in my life.
Yeah, I forgiving and forgetting, I think you said it so well, but it's it is a continual process. And I don't want people to ever underestimate that it's not something that doesn't take time for some people.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And you have to be okay with that and being allowed to be okay with that.
And I think another thing I thought of, I know in the past, before God taught me a lot of things, I would say I would say, I forgive you. Well, I would do it just to get the conversation over with, to get it off the table, but I really hadn't done that. And so I think it is a process. And once I realized that, I think it gave me the freedom. It's like, okay, God, you tell me to forgive, so I better do it right now. I think he just wants us to turn our heart toward him and let that forgiveness begin to happen.
So true. I remember when, and thinking of some times that I've had to forgive and choose to forgive and vice versa. People have to forgive. I told you about my friend named Brett. He had to forgive me for what I said, and I had to go to him for forgiveness. I think of when Amanda got very sick and she was incapable of functioning normally as herself for that whole year. We came to you, and I had been working through some things with her. I don't know if how many of y'all know, but postpartum psychosis, she got sick for a whole year, lost her for a year. She wasn't able to function normally as she was herself. And so we had a lot of things to work through, needless to say, at the end of that time. We came to see you. I remember how important it was to have another person in there to talk through this forgiveness with. I couldn't just go to her and say, hey, would you forgive me? Like you said, it took time. And going to a third person, how important is it really? I believe it's to go to a counselor and say, hey, I need to work through this.
Oh, I think it is, because when you get somebody that's objective, that's going to be able to help you walk through some things, especially if it's a husband-wife situation, or even if you're in a serious relationship with somebody, you think, man, this might go to marriage. We need to figure out how to work this out. Having a third person can make all the difference in the world, because you can just kind of continue to hurt each other, or and you've got someone there that can kind of walk you through it and can kind of clarify things, and it makes a big difference.
It does make a huge difference. So if you are in a situation right now where you're struggling with forgiveness and it's deep to hurt, counseling, I will talk about that all the time on this podcast, but counseling is a big part of that process that you seriously need to take into consideration for doing. I know it's helped my wife and I. It's helped tons of people, thousands of people. Obviously, you're a big fan of it, Dr.
Well,
Cant.
Nancy and I went early in marriage when we were struggling. We went to a counselor. It's something that I don't know anybody that at some point in their life it's not going to benefit.
Whether you're married, dating, not married, anything that as a man that you've worked through in the past, those are absolutely important. Here's a fun question that we'll throw out there. Do you think there are anything that is absolutely unforgivable?
Wow.
Woo! Throwing it.
This is fun.
Yeah.
Well, I think when it happens, adultery is something that people think, can I really forgive and move past this? Whether it's the husband or whether it's the wife. And I've worked with couples in both situations. So that's one that, and yes, you can. And I think you have to work forgiveness. That's certainly not one that you're going to say, I forgive you, and, let's go out to dinner. No, it takes a lot of time, a lot of work. And most couples that I work with that are doing that, it goes through, we've got fan club here today. It goes through, we'll bleep that out some way. Yes. What was I saying?
You said fan club, you were talking about forgiveness, unforgivable sin, adultery. Like, is there some things that you cannot forgive?
Yeah. I think it's taking that first step and saying, I'm willing to forgive. No, and what I was going to say is that it takes somebody, couples I've worked with that make it probably take a good 2 years in counseling, honestly. Now, that doesn't mean you're struggling the whole time. It's getting to a point and then learning how to redefine your marriage in that, where it becomes. So is there anything you can't forgive? Well, I don't think God would have said forgive if there's something we couldn't forgive. Yeah. And so that's kind of where I'd camp on it. But man, some things are harder than others.
Oh man, I can't even imagine some of the things that people have had to go through to forgive. That they've had encountered to your life. Just yeah.
Absolutely.
I would think there'd be a lot of challenging things. Maybe just from a time standpoint, I think the last question that I know from myself resonates deeply with me, and things that I've had to work through, things I've had to overcome when it comes to forgiveness, is how to forgive myself. And I think of the things in the past that I've done, always with other people necessarily, and saying, hey, they were involved with it. And then the time it took to necessarily forgive myself for the things that I caused, hurt other people, had to go back even to some of those and apologize to them. But just the way that it did that, forgiving myself was such a hard thing to do, but it was so important because of the way that what it did for me inside. Talk about that a little bit. How important is it to forgive yourself?
I think if you don't, you stay stuck somewhere.
Mm.
And I think, and it's usually the hardest thing. It's usually, and I've had people say, I can forgive my spouse. I know God forgives me. I just can't forgive myself.
Yeah.
And maybe it was an adultery situation, or maybe it was something you did that was really, really horrible. In your mind, it was horrible. And I guess what I always come back, if God forgave me, and He's the creator of the universe, I got to forgive myself. I mean, if He can forgive me, then I can forgive myself. And so I think for me, it would be saying, God, help me to forgive myself. I am really struggling with this. Help me know that your forgiveness is so real, and there's no reason for me not to forgive myself because you have. And I just think it's hard for us a lot of times. And I've seen some guys that have been in an adultery situation that it was a real struggle to forgive themselves. That was kind of the last barrier for them to get over, was forgiving themselves.
Because how can you really truly understand how to forgive somebody else if you can't forgive yourself?
It's true.
Right?
Yeah, I think so. I think it all goes hand in hand. I think it's easier, if I did something that offended Nancy that was pretty bad, or say, let's say the other way, that I did like that, and we worked through the forgiveness of that. It's still going to be hard for me to not beat myself up in that for a while, and I don't need to do that. And I think a lot of times as guys, we get stuck there. And I think, I don't know, thinking back just in general, it seems like guys have more trouble with that than women. That's just nothing scientific, nothing. It just kind of came to me as I think through couples and people I've worked with over the years. I haven't worked with very many women that's been an issue with, and I've worked with a lot of guys that it has been.
You think that's because men have such a hard time expressing our feelings?
I think it probably that, and maybe we do worse things. I don't know, well, in our mind that we do worse things.
Definitely, yeah. The only thing, I remember a song I listened to, worship song, the only thing that's good in me is Jesus, and there's absolute truth in that if you got inside my head and realized all the ugliness in there. Yeah. And that's a very good point. I do think when it comes to forgiving yourself that it is absolutely important, and men have to understand the concept of grace, and not that there's not, and guilt and conviction. Like guilt is something that continually stays with you, and it's of Satan. It's not of yourself. It's like Satan wants to keep you down. But conviction is something that says, hey, I want to get better. I want to improve. And that's where the conviction of the Holy Spirit comes into place at. But so many men that I even talk to, they allow that guilt and they'll wallow in it for, years, till their death at some point in time, for things that you and I may not really think was that big of a deal, but they'll carry that with them for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, and at some point, maybe it does become a pride issue at some point. That we're hanging on to that for some reason. I don't know. But I've seen people the same way, and it's almost like, I think sometimes it almost turns into martyrdom.
Oh.
And that's really unhealthy.
Yeah, especially when because it comes back to you. It's all about you.
It's
we
all
talked
about
narcissism last time.
Yeah.
It's all about you.
It comes back to be all about you. And I think that's extreme, but I think that can happen too. That can be a part of it. And I think that's why it's so important to get on it quickly, to deal with it, with the person, with God, and with yourself. It may take a process, but get on that track.
Yeah.
Head in that direction.
Well, it's true that Jesus didn't die just because he had to. He died because he loves you, and he wants you to experience forgiveness in your life and understanding what it's like to receive that grace on your life. And so much of our lives are, by embodying that and accepting that, it really does create, that's a great step anyway, first step, in my opinion, to necessarily experience that forgiveness for yourself.
And nothing we do is going to surprise Jesus. And it's not like he doesn't know. He knows. Yeah. And so he knows what we do. What you did that you think is so bad, Jesus didn't fall off his throne and go, oh my gosh, I've never heard of that one before. No, he died for that. And so he's forgiven us. Make that relationship healthy and forgive yourself.
I think that's a good place to end.
Think it is?
I think so. Anytime they end with Jesus, in my opinion, is
that's true.
It's a great place to stop. It's
like if someone asks you a question at church, if you answer Jesus, 99% of the time you're probably going to be right,
Right.
Yeah, that's right. That's a good answer. Hey, the other thing I want to say is we want your feedback. All you guys that are listening to this, we want this to be for you. So if there's topics you want us to cover, let us know. We like being in an open place like this, in a coffee shop. We've got other places we'd like to go to do this. Let us know if the background noise bothers you at all. Hopefully, let us know. And, we had a train go by, and that's just kind of part of it. They didn't give us a train schedule.
No, I blame that on the train people.
The train people, Amtrak. messed up. I'm sorry. So, but yeah, we want your feedback. We want each month to be better than the month before, and so we want it to be something that's going to help you guys. And we love doing it. We love spending time with you, and we want you to be better men because you listen to this.
Absolutely. And it's our hearts as well. Anything that we get feedback wise is going to make us better, and we
Yep.
want to get better in every aspect of what we do in our lives. And so feedback is very welcome. Even if it's harsh feedback, we'll still take it, and it helps us to improve and get better. Well, I know for me, this has been a great time. Dr. Kim, thank you for your time and the opportunity just
Same
to
with you.
sit here with you. And for all of you out there listening, hey, it's not just okay to be a man. Continue to work on being a better man. Have a great rest of your week.
Yeah.